Good. I'd like to call to order the Upper Darby Township Planning Commission meeting for December 11th, 2023. I'll do a quick visual roll call. I see we have 4 people present in the building, and Cassandra is on Zoom, so we do have a quorum and all members present this evening. You have your minutes that were distributed via email and are also in your packet. These are the minutes from October because we did not meet in November. So, scratching your heads for memory, remembering back that far, does anybody have any changes? Additions, subtractions?
I wasn't present, so I'm not going to wait.
Oh, so you're off the hook.
Yes, under section 2, under new business section 2B, we amended, after public comment, we amended the motion to make it conditional on council approval, but it's not reflected here. So I would just,
Amend the bylaw to allow planning commission members to act on this one?
yes, section B.
Yep.
After we made a motion, voted in favor, their public comment, then we amended the motion to make the previous motion conditional on council approval.
Oh,
So I just want to make sure that's,
that's true. It just says that we agreed with the comment, but it doesn't say that we amended it. Okay, we'll add those words to 2B under new business.
and to be clear, I mean township council, excuse me, I mean the
Council with
council for the
a,
township.
legal counsel with an
Legal
S, not
Right.
legislative
not
counsel with a C.
Exactly.
Anybody else have anything they think needs to be more accurate? Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes? As amended?
Aye.
Oh, I forgot to ask for a motion for that. Sorry, wait, Cassandra, motion to accept the minutes.
Motion
I
is-
move that we accept the minutes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think Cassandra seconded.
I did.
Yes, Cassandra seconded. Okay, we have no communications or bills to worry about this evening, so we can move right into our reviews. We have one land development project to look at an amendment for tonight, and then we will have a zoning review on the smoke shop. I'd like to remind everybody to use your microphones as you ask questions tonight, and I think the microphone up there is hopefully on. So, Josh, you want to open up the discussion with Delaware County Community College?
Yeah, so I can I'll put it up on the screen. I can actually let you guys present first, and then we can kind of go through our comments. I think I'll go through my letter, and then Mike can go through his, and then take questions from the board.
That'd be great. Can you guys hear me okay? Cassandra, can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. So my name is Mike Karate. I'm legal counsel, the SEL counsel for the Delaware County Community College. Back in 2020, the college came before the township, and got approval for its campus project over at the old high schools. And with it, we got all of our funding in place. We're all ready to go. And of course, the numbers came in, and they didn't come in where it's a good place for the college. So
I'm sorry, the construction cost numbers.
construction cost numbers, exactly right. So if you look at the plans that are up there, up on the screen to the right, those reflect the full build-out that was approved in 2020. Okay? And earlier this year, as we started to get those numbers in and start submitting things to the township for permits and getting everything ready to move, we started to look at and plan about scaling back some of the aspects of the development. So this is what we're proposing to do with amending our plans, because back in November, the township raised it, so now we've put these in plan form for you to approve as an amendment to our existing plans. And we've kind of structured them in 3 phases. And if you remember, when the project initially came in, we could show parking probably from wall to wall on this site. And one of the main big pushes was to create and allow for green space. So we want to still maintain that as part of this project, but provide the number of parking spaces that are required under our ordinances. So we've set out in plan form 3 phases to go forward. And we're, the college right now with its efforts will be looking for your approval to move forward with phase number 1, and then the approval of the overall bigger picture plan for phases 2 and 3 that'll come later. So phase 1 will include 22 of the classrooms, the Early Learning Center, which we're doing in combination with the YMCA, 303 parking spaces, and all of the stormwater management, all the road improvements, everything else that's associated with the project. What we're taking out of it is going to be 6 classrooms for the college, as well as the gymnasium. And with pulling that back, we'd also be taking out the parking garage, the parking structure. In place of the parking garage, we're going to be putting in a new a surface level parking lot that will have 63 parking spaces. So that's what brings our parking count up to 303. With all those amenities kind of built and cooked in, our requirement's 300. The next phase after this would be phase 2. And phase 2 would be 6 additional classrooms. None of this has any change to any buildings on the site that are proposed. The only thing is the parking that's driving a lot of it. So phase 2 would be us going in for zoning relief before the Township Zoning Hearing Board to get approval to use the transit reduction credit. Because we have now, I think 1, but I think we have 2 SEPTA transit stops that are right next to our site and that meet all that criteria. So we'd be going for the Zoning Hearing Board to be able to use that credit to then work for, continue to move forward and build out those 6 additional classrooms. And then phase 3 is reverting back to the final approved plans that were already approved and recorded, and that would be building the parking garage and converting that surface parking lot to the parking garage. In terms of timing, we're looking to move forward, obviously, with phase 1 immediately. Phase 2 would be in the coming months when we'd submit our zoning application. And then phase 3, it's kind of hard to predict with the crystal ball, but within the next 5 years, the college is going to be looking to move forward with the parking garage. Yeah, we got the review letters from Michael and Josh today, and we can certainly talk through all those, but welcome your feedback and hope for your recommendation. Again, the recommendation we're looking forward getting from you tonight is, 1, the overall phasing plan as a structure, and 2, phase 1 to move forward. Because I know Josh noted in his review letter that you need the variance relief and you can't do phase 2 without the variance relief. We agree. This would be getting us kind of the game plan to move that forward.
So the ultimate full-built plan hasn't changed?
Correct.
Okay, you're just breaking it into 3 phases for programming reasons. And so so what's the time frame for the 3, to your best
Sure.
than your knowledge?
Phase 1 is right now.
Okay.
They're already starting to do some of the site civil work on site. And in terms of when that's going to finish, I can probably point to the college folks, but our hope is within the year to have that phase 1 completed.
Okay.
Phase 2, which is going in for the zoning relief, and we anticipate going in early next year to the zoning hearing board for that.
Okay.
And then phase 3 is within the next 5 years.
So the whole site is anticipated to be finished within
I'm not sure about
5 to 6 years?
I'm not sure about finished in the land development world when I say within the next five years. That's getting the project started to permit level, so you're getting things rolling.
All right.
And of course, I can't give you any guarantees because,
No,
again,
I get
that's a
it.
crystal ball issue, but that's certainly our plan.
And the gymnasium now moves to phase 3?
Correct. The gymnasium moves to phase 3, as does the parking structure. I do have Gus Hootman here with me from GD Hootman and Sons, who can answer any of the engineering questions as we work through and talk through any of the review letters. Good? You want to bring Gus up now? Go through that?
Sorry, I had another question, just so I understand. Also, Josh, can you close that side tab so it fills the?
The bar down
The one on the
side.
left?
If you click those at the top, it can, to your left, where those lines, it hides it. Thanks. So I guess I'm just trying to conceptualize, so I think I understand generally. Okay, so I guess construction cost is sort of the driving factor behind this change. But are you saying that there's gonna be a surface parking lot constructed in phase one, but by phase three, where the parking garage originally was supposed to be, which is now a surface parking lot, is then gonna be constructed in place of that
That's
surface
correct.
parking lot?
Yep, gets converted.
This is the original plan here. This is what was approved. There's the parking deck right at the southeast corner of Dewey and Lansdowne. And Mike correctly pointed out, everything's the same between what was approved and this one, except for we're swapping out the parking deck for the ag-grade parking.
Okay,
Everything else, all the improvements, the main, the annex, the main building,
where's the gym?
everything is all the same, and it's just being phased now, as Mike had pointed out, it's just being phased.
Where,
So really, it's just concentrating right here. At the southeast corner of Dewey and Lansdowne, what was approved was a two-story parking deck. What we're doing now is taking the parking deck out and putting 60 ag-grade parking spaces.
okay,
And that's been fully designed. It has lighting, it has landscaping, stormwater management. Actually, the stormwater management for the site is being installed so that if and when they want to do this parking deck, the stormwater management system that's underneath of this parking area here, you just connect it right up. We're not downside. There's actually less impervious coverage with this at-grade parking versus the parking deck. But we're still putting in the full stormwater management system to go to the final phase.
okay. So, under the original design, what was the total parking spaces provided versus now?
This was, the approved plan had 445 parking spaces.
And this one has 303.
Three?
Yep,
So the 63 and the at-grade bring the parking up to 303, and the requirement was 300.
correct, yep.
And you said I'm sorry, I forgot your name, sir. Gus, you said, all the improvements were the same, but the gymnasium, where was that, or where?
The gym is right here. That structure is going to remain. Originally, with the approved plan, it wasn't phased, so they're going to do the interior renovations, modifications to let it become a fully functioning gymnasium for the college students. But because this is now being done in phase three, this is just going to be a building that's going to stay mothballed
Okay.
for a few years.
Oh, that's the existing gym.
Existing-
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha, all right,
Yeah, right here.
Yep.
Gymnasium right here.
okay.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Portions of the existing building will be white box, part of the work, original work. Thank you.
I don't have any more questions, I don't know if you guys want to.
What percentage of the parking lot that you're putting in now will be plantings, green space?
Gus can confirm that, but we have 4 planting islands in the interior. That was one of the comments, I believe, from Michael or Josh Cameron, which we have the 4 planting islands. I can't tell you the exact percentage, but my understanding is that we're compliant with that, with the
What is the
requirements.
percentage?
Your code requires 5% to be, of the interior to be landscaped. We have larger, there's 63 spaces, so 5%. You would need roughly 3 islands to be converted to landscape areas. We have 4, and the 2 northern islands are actually much larger. They're larger than the required 10-foot wide, so I'm fairly confident we have the required.
You do have more than 5%?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's one of the comments. We have to go back and check, but I'm fairly confident that we have it. And if we don't, we'll make the changes so that we do have it.
I do have a question, it's related, but regarding the parking, when the people proposed this in the very beginning, they said it was because they realized a lot of their students were from this part of the county and taking public transportation. and most of the students were arriving in Newtown Media by public car, not private vehicles. So there might be less need for parking spaces here if they told us that most of the students in this area were coming without a private vehicle. Has anybody been checking that or factoring that or counting the spaces that students are using?
Yeah, so we do keep track of, I can turn it over to Tony, you can probably
Yeah,
speak it.
we don't keep track of it.
Sorry,
We
can you
do
just put your
run-
name on the record?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Tony DeLuca, DELUCA. Associate Vice President Facilities for Delaware County Community College. We do run 2 shuttles to our current Upper Darby Center and our Sharon Hill Center, and we could pick up students, take them to the main campus. This semester alone, we averaged over 4,500 students taking those shuttles alone. We also have the 118, 115, 112 that come to campus every day loaded with students. And those students, we expect a lot of them to go to this campus because they don't have their own transportation. The shuttle service is a great thing, but if they can get through here with trolley and bus, we can stop that shuttle service and bring them in here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Josh, do you want to go through your letter and then Mike?
Do you guys don't need the background or anything with this? Everyone's fairly
No, yeah,
familiar?
yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go right to the, kind of the meat of it. One of the features I also did was, because it was previously approved, I think in 2019, it has the pre-codified code. So I've also added the codified code section italicized afterwards to just make it clear what was being translated to what we'd use right now. So, right, the first thing that we talked about is the parking. Phase 1 requires 300 parking spaces where 303 are provided. Phase 2 adds 6 classrooms, which, right, bring that amount up to 372, and where 303 are provided, right? The plan talks about using a transit access credit, but a transit access credit is only allowed in the C-1 and C-2. This is technically an R-1 zoning district. So while I don't think, right, I think in the theory of it's the same, there's 2 great, right, transit places nearby, and I think go into the zoning hearing board with that mindset and ask for what would be allowed otherwise. I don't think it technically, right, you're not technically applying for the transit access, you're really just applying for a variance to bring it down to that transit access. At least that was my interpretation of the code. Mike or anybody, if you saw something different, let me know.
I agree with that.
And then, right, phase 3, right, we were just having this conversation, might need to recount because it's still coming out as under, and that's without the transit credit access. So as far as I can tell for now, you would need some sort of variance for phase 2 and phase 3. One of the other conversations we had is talking about safe pedestrian provisions throughout the new at-grade parking lot. And one of the comments we had was making sure that there is a way to get the students and staff from the parking lot to the interior pedestrian system without them going out the driveway here. And I think we came to an agreement that maybe stairs or steps shooting from the corner here through the landscaping to this corner would be the best way. They're going to walk through the grass anyway. Would rather, they're going to go as the easiest, the path of least resistance. So I think we'd want to see maybe the sidewalk connecting there. And plus that takes you away from where cars are entering and exiting. So it kind of helps pedestrian safety as well. Right. I have a comment about bumper guards, right, to protect the landscaping. There's none shown in the plan. All lots with 50 or more spaces must have 5%. We were having that conversation earlier. And that is, right, essentially, it's probably here, but we just want them to add the table to the landscaping plan so that we can easily verify it. Right, as far as waiver comments go, right, this will be like all the others we've seen, preliminary final, Saldo comments, right, subdivision and land development. That comes from this book. Just as a reminder, we're still on the county subdivision land development because we do not have our own. So my first comment, right, is just some administrative, right, changes, just putting the current year and correcting the signature lines to reflect our existing structure. A schedule, right, that we discussed verbally, right, should be written down and put into that phasing plan per section 505A. The new address for Delaware County Community College should be included on the plan. And Mike, I'm not sure if we want to keep this in, but the traffic study, if that needs to be amended in any way, or if there was a parking study, I don't know, but I wanted to bring it up just in case we felt it was necessary.
I spoke to Al Federico before the meeting, and he mentioned that there was no specific parking analysis done. He is going to take a quick review of the parking area. I don't know if there's going to be any need to amend the study.
I was going to say the same thing, because the parking study mainly deals with traffic circulation, ingress and egress coming to the site, not interior to the site.
Yeah, I'm not married to that comment, so I can remove it if it doesn't make sense, but I'd rather talk about it now than not talk about it at all.
Does the fact that one of the end uses, the early learning, I'm assuming that's just like a daycare facilities?
Yeah, the Early Learning Center is going to be a center operated by the YMCA, where they're going to provide services both to folks that are coming as well as others in the community to, I think it's kind of a combo preschool. I can't speak to it a lot because I wasn't here in 2020, a combo preschool, early learning center type institution for the younger kids.
So I guess my question, and I don't know the answer to this, but are there different sort of circulation standards with that kind of use, considering like people are walking with like little kids and things like that through parking lots, or is that something that's looked at differently?
Not with respect to a traffic impact study. And here, the parking lot area for the Early Learning Center is kind of on its own, segregated right in front of it as well.
So imagine the traffic study, the previous one had all the hospital traffic on Huey Avenue. If you do a new one, it's going to be
It's going to be less.
Probably that's
vastly
true,
different.
yeah. Who knows what will be next?
Yeah.
So I can remove it.
I mean, I'm okay with that. I mean,
Yeah, I'm
Alright.
okay with it. So that's
I'll remove it, and then let me just have a couple of
bottom of
comments,
page,
Mike.
the last one on page 3.
I think you're hitting a lot of mine, so I don't want to have too many.
Okay, and then just the last, SEPTA, right, should be included for their bus stop. I don't know if they've been, contacted at all, or what the plan is for that, but the bus stop is located, I think, right at this top corner here. So I definitely want to see it on the plan, because we always want to think, interchangeably, think about the people that may be getting off of that stop, and then how are they going to be interacting with the community college as well? Because, right, when you're talking about using transit and using, right, these systems, we want to make sure that we're incorporating them in and always, right, taking that into consideration. So, right, I'd like to see it clearly identified, and I think it would be best if you guys consulted with them at some level. There's no color rendering for the preliminary landscape plan, so we're just asking for that. And then our final recommendation, right, is approval contingent on receiving zoning approval and providing a phasing timetable. And that recommendation, right, is subject to your ultimate discretion as the planning commission. And then, Mike, you want to hit your comments? I know there's some overlap, but
Josh, do you want me to speak to SEPTA really quick? We
Please.
have been in communication with SEPTA, and I think right now we're just kind of waiting on their timetable for how they design any kind of changes they have to that facility.
Okay.
But we have been in communication with them. And then just to clarify the recommendation, because what we're looking for is kind of the phase 1 to continue to move forward with that, as well as with these, subject to these conditions, and then the overall phasing plan. Not that we'd have to wait to get that approval so we can continue to move forward on phase 1, but the overall phasing plan, phases at least 2, has to get the zoning approval for that to march forward.
are you saying you want to come back in for phase 2, though?
No, I think, because phase 2 doesn't change anything outside of a building. It's only the adding of the additional 6 classrooms that are already inside the building. There's no footprint change, no stormwater management. The only thing would be getting the relief from the zoning.
Right, and assumably you want to come in for phase 3, because phase 3 was approved in 2020.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
For the procedurally, and technically they're not applying for, there's no transit credit application, right? So they're applying for a variance in efforts to mirror what would be the transit credit if it did apply, right?
If it were in that R dash,
If it were-
or
if it
R
was in that
C-1 or
zoning
C-2,
designation.
yeah.
So if we don't get whatever zoning relief we need from the zoning hearing board for that, phase two couldn't move forward, we'd have to come back to you with something else.
Come back anyway. 'cause-
Correct.
Right.
So Josh, the way you have, the last line here is with contingent upon zoning approval and contingent upon providing a phasing timetable, which we've spoken to verbally. So by making a motion on this document as it stands, minus the striking of the traffic study, would we essentially be giving them what they're looking for, both approval of phase one and sort of a tacit approval of the overall phased plan?
That would be my understanding.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, because I don't think you would end up back here. This would be the one
Yeah.
review.
But I think we can do it via one motion against this paper, is
Good.
what I'm saying. As opposed to, like, we don't need two motions, one for the phasing and one for phase one.
No, you're correct.
Oh, yeah.
You're right.
Okay. Okay. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I'll just be very brief because I think Josh and I have similar comments. I think when it comes to zoning, when we talk about the backup area of the parking stall, if you're looking at the parking lot and when you enter into the lot, the parking lot kind of goes on a skew for that one stall at the north, I guess that'd be like northwest corner. Yeah, it's kind of an odd backup in that location. I don't know if there's something you can do to make that.
Well, I think what we're gonna have to do is, you had that comment about the grading being in the easement area, the traffic signal easement area, so I think we're gonna have to shift that whole parking area, might have to shift up, or I should say down south, towards the maintenance drive there. That space to figure that out.
And then you can make that backup space a little bit better.
Well, then we wouldn't make it angled, it would just be straight in.
It would be straight in, good.
So you wouldn't need it.
Yep. Regarding subdivision land development, the only comment we have is the phased approach with the subdivision land development agreements. That would be the financial and the
O&M
development agreement. Well, you can work that out with the solicitor. And then stormwater, we had a few comments regarding stormwater, one being a couple of discrepancies that were minor. I think we can work them out, Gus. I don't see any issue there.
I think embarrassing, I think we gave you the wrong drainage area maps with the outcome here left. But I'll get, we'll coordinate.
Yeah, I believe ultimately with this design is we're going to have, assuming you're just building phase one right now, and that's what's happening, we're going to have more stormwater BMPs than would actually be ever required for this site because we're having an additional basin, whereas we have that extra large basin for the early learning center. So just make sure, just get us the corrected maps and then we should be fine. We need to do an updated O&M agreement, especially for that one basin, even though it could be temporary, phased. It may go away in the future. We still need to update the O&M agreement. Spillway, yeah, we talked about land development agreements. I want to see some spillway calculations. This is what happens when that basin overflows. Where's the water going to go? Is there adequate, let the cops go by. So for example, when the basin overflows, you're going to have riprap and a controlled overflow area. And so it doesn't erode out and wash out all down the road if it ever does overflow or there was any kind of a failure. And then you talked about the grading. It sounds like you're going to lessen the grading in the parking area. And then, okay.
The grading currently is at 5%.
Oh, it is at 5. Okay, I couldn't,
For 1 foot contours.
okay.
So it's 5%. We thought that was a comfortable maximum for the use. So I coordinate that further with you, but 5% seems to be.
But if you can shift the parking area down, you can kind of get off the basin a little bit, get some separation. Because I think there were some comments in my letter about fencing around the basin and also it's a very steep slope adjacent to that curb. So I think anything you can do to get off of that and have better grading down toward the basin. So if you did have a car eventually go off the edge, at least you'd have some kind of buffer there, and it's not, I think that was part of my concern there. You have that basin there, and then you have a steep slope right next to it. Even though it's a parking area, it was still, you know, something that we should look at.
Remove that parking area out of the traffic signal.
Can you ask him to move to the mic, please?
Gus, can you come up to the mic?
Oh, sure, I'm sorry.
Cassandra can't hear you.
Yes, when I testified that for one of Mike's comments, Mike, one of his comments was that some of the grading for that basin that's associated with that at-grade parking area is located within the traffic signal easement. And that traffic signal easement is right, it's that hatched area in the very far northwest corner. It'd be the southeast corner of the intersection. Yeah, there's a hatched area right there where Josh is going to point to, hopefully, right there. So we'll pull the grading, in order to get the grading, the basin grading out of that area, we'll pull the parking area further south by about 8 to 10 feet. And then that will also allow us to soften some of the grading and get, you know, and get that emergency spillway in as well. So-
But also, Josh, can you go to the grading plan real quick? If you scroll down.
This is just,
Oh, it's just a single sheet.
give me a sec.
I have the grading plan on a board.
Yeah, I can get there.
And while he's going to the grading plan, I just had one more comment. The curb cut that would have been put in for the above-grade parking deck, are you going to put that in, or are you going to keep that
No,
as
it's
a
gonna be
reveal?
upright.
Okay, good. One of my concerns was that, you know, someone late at night just turns into it, next thing you know, they're down in the
Yeah,
parking
no,
lot.
that's a good idea.
Okay.
That would be.
Yeah, I'd rather see the reveal, a 6-inch reveal curb.
No, they'll have to just, when they do the parking
4
garage,
inch.
they'll have to take out that 20 or 25-foot section and depress it.
Yeah, that's, I agree with that. So if you're looking at the grading plan, you want to describe the grading there, Gus, real
Yeah, the
quick?
grading is, everything is falling towards Huey Avenue, which is planned north of the proposed at-grade parking area. And in between the parking area and Huey Ave, we have a small detention basin facility that's going to manage stormwater runoff from the lower portions of the parking area before it discharges out to Huey Avenue. So in order to address Mr. Galante's comment with the grading in that traffic signal easement, we're going to pull the proposed parking closer. We're going to pull plan south towards the proposed access drive, and that'll free up the area in that traffic signal easement. And again, it'll also, if we pull it far enough away, we may also be able to soften some of that grading in the basin area.
Do you plan on keeping the basin open, or are you going to put a fence around it?
No,
or
It'll
just-
need a fence.
You're going to put a fence around it? What kind of fence?
Anything over anything that impounds more than 18 inches of water has to be fenced in. That's going to be required.
Yeah, are you going to, do you have a certain kind of fence that you're proposing?
We usually put like just to make it look a little. Yeah, usually we just use a post and rail with the mesh turkey wire.
I'm just picturing how that would look in with the rest of the development. I think we should at least kind of make sure it's compatible with the rest of the plan. Aren't there some 3-rail fence on the plan?
There's, up by the early learning center, there's some fencing there for the play areas out back.
Yeah, it may make sense to try to complement that, and potentially, I mean, that's also up to the board, what kind of fence they'd be looking at there. Because that's
That's
going to be
fine.
your main, as you're driving down Lansdowne Avenue, you're obviously going to see that. There will be a lot of landscaping as well, which will buffer any fence you put in, but.
Right.
What about as far as when you pull into the parking area and you have that steep grading going down to the basin adjacent to the curb line? Is that
Yes.
going to get lessened when you pull the
We'll
parking
see,
area?
we'll see how much we can do. I mean,
Okay, yeah.
You have my, I'm going on record stating we'll certainly look at that and we'll
Good.
soften as much as we can. But, you're dealing with the same problem on the other side. On the south side, you have a relatively flat area immediately south of that 195 contour, which is the southern part of the parking area. And then you have a steep grade that brings you back up onto that sidewalk area and the access drive. So we'd have to look at both.
That's what I was saying, a little small landscape wall may help soften.
Yeah, right. Look at
May help you balance it a little bit better.
2 or 3 foot wall, sure.
Yeah. And that's all my comments.
Do you want me to, the board like if I threw up the landscaping plan real quick? Would that be helpful?
I think it's sheet 27.
Um,
It's sheet 27, I think. It's all towards the back, I think.
It's taking a second. There's a lot on here.
Yeah, it's,
always takes a while.
Breaks my computer.
Stop sharing for a second. Give it a.
Gus, do you have it on the board? I'll bring the board up in the meantime.
I have it here too.
Yeah, it's on mine. It takes a while. You need like a super fast computer.
Yeah, there's a lot loading.
Engineers.
I'll be happy if this doesn't crash the Zoom.
Please don't.
right. Where's the best spot to put it? I guess over here. Everybody see that?
Mhm.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. You want to move it closer to them and then, wait, maybe,
Wait,
Did you get it?
I think I got it.
Oh, Josh got it. Yay. Now Cassandra can see it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have, I mean, it's, again, we have a fully compliant for, once we get through the review comments, but it was our intention to have a fully compliant landscaping plan for the at-grade parking, even though it's interim parking. So, fully landscaped, the hatching is ground cover. The circles there are different, shade trees, ornamental trees around the parking area. So you have you have what should be code compliant, park. When the review's done and the plans are approved, you'll have a code compliant at-grade parking at the intersection there.
How many trees total are you proposing? You have that?
throughout the entire plan?
Yeah, throughout the entire plan.
Let me see.
Remember, they did a significant landscape plan. Process.
Um, 92, or what I'll say, like deciduous trees, like parking lot trees, 3 to 3.5 inch caliber.
Cassandra, he said 92
Thank you.
deciduous trees throughout the parking areas.
That's excellent. Yeah.
He's adding.
Who's raking all these?
Not the township. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. Are we updating the financial agreement as well? Are all three agreements getting updated?
Yes.
And development financial, okay. Is it possible as part of that updated to do an escrow instead of a bill direct system? Where we're constantly sending bills every month? I know, if we're at a different place than maybe 2 years ago, if that's possible, that would be my recommendation. Public comment? If you guys have nothing else?
Pardon me?
Public comment, if nothing else?
I don't know. Is there any member of the public out there that would like to give an opinion? Nope. Okay, are we good with
I am.
questions? Okay. I'm good with no more questions for Josh or Mike or anybody? Okay. So then, that means it's up to us. So we have the staff report.
Right.
As documented here, we talked about striking just the bottom bullet on page 3. So would anyone like to make a motion?
Is there anything you want to add too?
I would say
'Cause-
that
yeah.
we should, any motion, I would like to hear that it, of course, covers anything documented in the staff reports, specifically including the grading, the basin that Mike had talked about, the basin fencing, the backup space, and include document the verbal discussion we had about time frame for the phases.
All right, so does the motion, I agree. We captured all that in the minutes, so I don't repeat it. Yep.
I can try to give you my motion, but you can tell me I'm wrong or not. So it'd be a motion to approve the Phase 1 plans as well as the phasing plans, subject to compliance with the December 11, 2023 zoning letter from Josh and the December 8, 2023 MG Engineering Associates Review Letter noting the changes to be made to the plans to soften the landscaping for the parking, as well as to provide the parking connection, interior parking connection on the southeastern corner of the proposed parking lot. And I think that covers everything, because everything else is in the letters themselves.
Yeah, was
as
the
well
basin
as the
fencing in the letter? The style of the fence, was that in
Fencing
the letter?
is, yep.
Okay, I didn't know, I knew the fence was, I didn't remember the
And
style
we're
of.
taking out the traffic impact study.
Yes,
The style of the fence, yeah, we should, just.
Style of fencing.
Right.
Yep.
All right, so
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
okay. Jeff has made the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Steve has seconded, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys.
Next on our agenda is to have a quick update on the work that the staff has done to incorporate our last round of discussions on the smoke shop ordinance. We talked about the different zoning districts and distances. And we also talked about how to measure what qualifies or doesn't qualify as a smoke shop. So, Josh.
Yeah, so I'll keep it pretty brief. I took all your comments in, and I hope you guys saw the map that I made. That you should be able to click on and off and see really what the effects of, right, the potential legislation would be. In terms of changes that I made, right, they're still, and I can zoom this up, they're still shown in red. So, right, definition, I don't think that part changed from our conversation. What conversation I've been having is that it's possibly not going to work to measure, right, display area of smoke items to square footage. There's some pushback about, right, apples to oranges. So that's something that we're working through right now. We're looking at some different ways, some different methods of measuring. So it's kind of still a work in progress.
You mean just that measure of measurement, or that, what's it called? Not measure of measurement.
Method of measuring?
Yeah, method of measurement.
Right, measuring the display, square foot display area of the smoke items to, right, the square footage of the store instead of measuring that to all of the displays, possible display space, which in my mind would be too labor intensive. So we've been looking at opportunities. What would it be like if we hire a third party to review the space, see if that's a thing, or companies are out there that could possibly do that, and then, kind of put the onus on them. So we're exploring that, and, also trying to come up with possibly other ways. So that's just kind of in the air, up in the air right now. Again, always taking any suggestions as they come. Aside from that, right, I actually added language of a cigar lounge, because I don't really know what a smoking parlor is if it's not this, right? Because we talked a lot about separating the language between a smoke shop and a smoking lounge, and I don't know what else you would smoke that's legal. So so I changed it to a cigar lounge and separated it from smoke shops, per our conversation together. I don't think I made any changes to the signs. And then I also reduced again, sorry, I'm looking for, I reduced it from 1,000 back to 500 feet for distance between, because it's only gonna be in the C2, C, and C4, which are already kind of compact districts. And then I completely got rid of the rec zoning and township parks, because it wouldn't leave any actual opportunity and could possibly, right, get the law thrown out.
Quick question. So I know they talked about the October meeting. So they will be permitted in the C2 and C4 commercial districts under these changes. The C1 and C3 is strictly by special exception.
No, so C2 and C4 will be by special exception.
Oh,
C1 and C3 will be prohibited.
got it. All right.
It's a little stricter.
Yep. Okay.
And for the cigar lounge, for 23.C4, it still discusses a hookah bar.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I?
You see on the first sentence, a hookah bar shall be permitted.
Sorry. It's a lot of copy and paste.
Yeah, no problem, just pulling it out.
Yep, just keep in mind, thank you, review it, let me know your comments, and we'll talk about it again next meeting. I don't know how in detail you guys want to go tonight, but that was just kind of an update, and hopefully we'll, keep working at it and narrow it down to a final.
All right. When do you think council will be ready to adopt it?
I couldn't
Whenever
s-
we have it ready, or?
Yeah.
I couldn't
after us.
say. I mean, I can
Okay.
go see what the feeling is, but we haven't even really reached, our two big questions are still, how do we measure space? And, right, what is that line, right? 75 square feet or 5%? Where's that number? Is that number right?
So you said there was, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I guess, I don't want to get hung up on the percentage or the square footage, I just more what's practical from an enforcement standpoint, I guess, and a measure, you know what I mean? Like, it
Right, because it
can't be,
if we get crazy about the numbers
Yeah.
and yet they can't enforce it, then we've gotten nowhere.
right,
We're exactly where we are anyway. So really, we have to let you keep working through what are the reasonable and practical measurement options.
Right.
But I think what Josh was saying, and correct me if I'm representing what you were saying, but what we thought initially would be more practical for enforcement. I think you're saying now there's an issue of there was pushback on the method of that measurement, even though it might have been more practical to enforce, right? Is that what you're?
Yeah, there was some pushback on, they were afraid it was, comparing apples to oranges, right? We're comparing display area to total square footage of the store, not display area to display area. So we're not saying 25% of your display area has to be, right? If it's over 25% of that area, right, then it's considered a smoke shop. If it's 25%, right? If that display area equals 25% of the number for the square footage of the store.
I'm not following this at all, sorry.
So you remember when
Are you, Jeff?
no.
so remember, so at the last
It's not clear at all to me.
So at the last meeting, we had a large discussion of, okay, or maybe not the last meeting, but the last time we discussed this, I don't know if it was the last meeting, but we had a discussion about, okay, we're establishing some type of limit. I think here it was 75 square feet. But the question was 75 square feet or 5%. And the question was 5% of what? The retail display space or the entire retail store? And so that was where is this ringing a bell? I remember we were going back and forth between whether it should be the entire store or the retail display space or things that are on display, like the merchandising display. And I think for ease of enforcement, I think we were saying it was easier to enforce and to show, like when you submit a permit, just this is amount of the square footage of the space that's going to be used for that. And I think what Josh is saying is that there was pushback saying like, well, you're not measuring apples to apples, you're measuring apples to oranges, because it really should be the percentage of the displays of merchandise, not the percentage of the entire, I guess, retail space.
Okay. So,
So that, I guess that was what the,
Right, that was, and there wasn't like it
In
was
addition
shot
to-
down,
yeah.
it was just a conversation to keep looking at. Right, that there could be some pushback with that. Now, that being said, it's not the first time our zoning code has done something like this. A good example, right, is the signage ordinance, where we decide we decide the square footage of the sign, right, based off of the width of the building. So you take the width of the building, which is
uncommon,
linear,
that's common.
you multiply it by 2, right, and then that's the maximum signage square footage. So it's in a similar vein.
okay. If we went with the 25% of display, is that reasonable? Is that, I mean, you walk into these stores, it's pretty, you know, it's not, they're not.
So are we saying 25% display area, 75% of the rest of the display area is,
Non-tobacco
right?
stuff.
So the only issue we have with that, right, is it's just that's gonna be a lot of measuring.
Okay.
And it's, at what point does that not become enforceable?
Well, whoever's measuring this stuff, what's easiest for them? You're measuring, all right.
You're looking at him and her.
Others are gonna get some outside person to do it.
So, right, and that's what we're exploring as well, right? Do we make them, right, is it feasible and reasonable for them to hire somebody who professionally looks at retail space to say, right, okay, you are or are not meeting 75% or 5% of the space? You know,
And
do
if
we,
such a service provider exists, maybe they have some experience already.
There's secret shopper
Doing a
companies
little
do that
research?
too now for people. The secret shopper companies now do that.
do they?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I'm still confused.
Yes.
Thoroughly, I'm nowhere near understanding this.
I think what we're saying, if you,
But let me explain why I'm
Yeah,
confused.
okay.
You wanna talk?
So you're saying you're getting pushback from who?
So from when I've been discussing it with kind of like the community development team,
Okay, and they're pushing back on what?
on the fact that, right, we're measuring, right, the plan that I have right now, I think maybe we should just go back to square one. The plan that I have right now, oh, I'm sorry, no, I don't know if I have the
That's
draw.
it, no, sorry.
The plan I have right now, right, is we go in and we physically measure, right, all of the space that is dedicated to smoke shop items. So whether it's and I give kind of different ways to measure it, right? If it's a display box, right, you take the length times width. If it's a shelf, you do that, right? If it's all flat against the wall, then you, right, measure height by width, and you get a number. Say all of that equals 25 square feet, right?
Right.
Then, right, you take that and you divide it by the gross floor area of the store. So say it's a 25 by 10 store, right? And then you divide that. Is it 75? Or sorry, what are my numbers? Is it 75 square feet or 5% of the retail space? If it hits that margin, right, then it's a smoke shop.
It's either or, 5 or
Whatever's
75%.
lower. Whichever is less. So, right, if it's 75 square feet total, it's automatically smoke shop. If it's 40 square feet, but it's 50%, right, say it's a small shop, then it's still a smoke shop. So I don't think, the issue with that part of the code is just, is 75 reasonable? Is 5% reasonable? There might not be a way to know it without testing it. I don't know if that's not, and that's, that's all right. That's part of getting a code, putting it out there, getting the feedback, adjusting and then putting it back out. And that's, I don't really see a way around that. Unless,
What are
open
other-
the suggestions. But the other option, right, is how do we measure? Do we measure, right, do I go in and measure that display area and then have to measure all of the other display areas in the same detail? Because that could be way too much work.
Right.
Well, we're not trying to make more work, so obviously, no suggestions for more work would make sense, but,
Right.
because it's not effective, not that you don't want to work. So, the 75% to me, you're saying if it's, I don't know what side of the coin you're on. Are you saying if it's 75% or more smoke? Or are you saying if it's 25% or more smoke?
So the code that is right now is if it's 75 square feet, so right, of any size, if it's 75 square feet of smoke shop area, then it has to, right, get that special exception or it has to get that variance. Right, say it's a really small store, right, then we're also looking at percentage, right? Is it 5% or more of that store? Then it would be, right, considered a smoke shop.
So is it easy to walk into any store and measure the square footage of retail space? Well, just if I walk into a convenience, all right, you got their offices in the back and then whatever, the area they're selling stuff.
And so there's kind of two
I'm not
parts.
saying go down every aisle and measure all the displays. I'm just saying the total square footage of the retail space.
Yeah, sure. You take a measuring tape, you go from one side to the other, and then
That's
you
an
go
easy,
from
that's
front to
an
back.
easy,
That's easy.
quantifiable count.
Exactly.
Well,
Then-
but that's what we suggested the last time.
That's half of what it-
Exactly. Isn't that
So
what we said?
then,
That's half.
can
Yeah.
you make a judgment call or go measure how much they have for smoking products and hit that, is that relatively easy to measure?
Yes, and this is what I've recommended in the
Okay.
original.
So why don't we go with that?
Yeah. Okay. Hey, if that is right, if that's, yeah,
I think in reality, you know it when you see it. You know,
Sure.
look, every gas station sells these products, but they're like,
well, we know when we see it, but we also have to
Part of it,
prove.
it's not
Say
the-
they appeal it, I have to prove it to the zoning hearing board.
yes.
What do other,
think
what
they're
do
supposed
other
to.
counties do? What does Montgomery County do?
I
How do
don't
they,
think we're out in front of this one,
Yeah.
We did that.
Cassandra, believe it or not.
Yeah, there's not a. Most of them are just considered retail. We could, and that's part of it, right? Is making sure that they're. I'm also going to be reviewing this as they come in.
I think what you're gonna face is that the plans are always gonna hit the number. It's, when you start getting the phone calls from the neighbors is when you're gonna have to go.
Right,
measure
and
stuff.
exactly, it's gonna be both of those things, right? They're gonna have a convenience store, we're gonna ask for, a plan, and, right, maybe we should put it into the code that you need an architectural drawing, right, to hold them to that higher standard. And then, right, there's also gonna be, well, this was a deli, and then they took out this wall, and now it's all hookahs and vapes,
Yeah.
right? And then they got rid of the walk-in freezer, and now it's all,
So I think it sounds like we all kind of still like where we were,
Yes,
and we just need to let Josh continue to
okay.
work with the team inside and see if you can turn this into a practical way of doing business for the township, or give us another idea, but I think we all want to stick with what we had
right.
and see if you guys can work it out. Can
And
make it
remind me
work.
what we had, because I'm still, so, by the way, another thing too is, I thought when you're measuring that, when you're trying to equate space in a retail store, where I worked for a long time, you don't measure the whole store, you measure the retail selling space.
Right.
If you measure the whole store, there could be 10 feet in the back that they're not using for selling. So that could send the numbers off.
And that was the point of, right, that was the apples to oranges possibly.
But
So if you just walk in, I'm sorry, Steve, but if you just walk in with one of those wheels that the people use, just wheel.
Yep.
And it says there are 19 feet of display space. And then anything in that zone, so if there's a 19 1-foot, if there's anything smoking in that section, that's smoking related, and that gets counted. So, and then that's how I would come up with the number. That's all, supermarkets do it, but.
Sorry, say the last part again?
So let's say you take the wheel and you
Uh-huh.
start wheel, wheel, and you come up with the number of 19.
Mhm.
So there's 19 one-foot sections. Anything in that first one-foot section, if there's any smoking, it counts. The next, even if they've got some cokes on top, doesn't matter. There's still smoking in that
So you're
section.
saying do square footage to square footage
Yeah, I think that would be easier, wouldn't it?
instead of focusing on display space?
I'm not trying to make it more difficult. I'm trying to think of the simplest way
Yeah.
to let this become effective.
So instead of not even bothering measuring square footage of display area, I just take a square footage of the store and then take kind of like a
But
gross.
take the square footage of the selling space.
The retail space.
Okay.
'Cause that is different than the store.
You're saying the same, store, retail.
Right.
What you're saying, they're not,
Not gonna
Well,
count
retail,
the
I think retail
offices.
space is different than display area.
Right,
Display
Right.
area, right.
right.
Well, measuring the display area, right, for everything else could be extensive. That was kind of the issue that I was having.
If you just wheel, go, and you
So
have,
you're talking two-dimension, if he's got one bottom shelf of tobacco products, that counts as the
yeah.
square. So, you know,
What do you think is the simplest way?
The way I have it right now, probably.
in
I
this.
agree. 'Cause I
I
think
agree,
that
right.
what, they're saying about like not counting the offices or the back storage and stuff, I agree with that.
I'm not
That
talking
doesn't
office
mean
and back
that-
storage. I'm not
Right,
talking
no, I'm
office and
talking
back
about,
storage.
right, but I agree with that statement, but that doesn't mean the methodology has to change, you just apply it to a smaller space. So I think you can keep that method, the apples to oranges thing, I'm still kind of stuck on that. I think it's really only apples to oranges if you include all that extra stuff that's not selling space.
So I guess what we would need to drill down on is, right, we've kind of made it very clear what we're measuring for in terms of display smoke shop areas. That's really, right, we have a whole hunk of code for that. What we need to really clear up is the other part, right? What are we dividing it against? What is that whole space, right? Is that just gonna be the retail space? Is that me going on the county and seeing that the building is 50 by 75, right? And dividing against that number?
No, it seems
Um,
like it should be the retail space, because if they have offices in the back or a loading dock or whatever,
And that should just be provided to you, because I think one of the things we talked about was not necessarily an architectural plan, but just literally a floor, like a two-dimensional two-dimensional floor plan that like just gives you that information. I don't think you shouldn't have to go digging
So
for
we're
it.
we're thinking that gets divided by just the retail
Yeah.
area. Just go from one wall of the retail space to the other. Both
That's
length and
what I
width.
thought, yeah.
right, you don't have to count
Don't
the
include the
bathrooms,
bathrooms, don't
the
include.
offices, if
Okay.
they have a loading dock, if they have a kitchen or a playpen for their kid during the day, none of that counts.
Okay.
Right, and again, that's not work, carving that out shouldn't be work that you do. It should be provided to you that way, and if they include it, that's sort of on them, that's you get
Right,
what I'm
I
saying?
think they will when they're applying for it, but I think the
It's when
ones
you
are
go
where
back in.
they
Right,
change it over time.
Right,
I
right.
think that's probably gonna be the
Right, if they're
question.
knocking out, if they're changing a bathroom, they're renovating it to include it into the retail space. I don't know if that level of work triggers like permit review or whatever, but if it does, then
then we'll know.
you'll update that floor plan. If it doesn't, and you get complaints, then you can look at a floor plan and say like, there was a bathroom here, there's not anymore, this is part of the retail space.
Right.
Like, I don't know if we have to
Yeah.
get too,
Now, another question we could possibly have is adding a line in there that is something judgment of the zoning officer. I don't know how binding that would be.
Yeah, that opens it up
That would be-
to
That would
arguing,
be sad. Sad
Okay.
result.
yeah.
So I'm confused. This is only for the stores that don't apply for a smoke shop permit. If they're
Exactly.
applying for a smoke shop, it's definitely a smoke shop. This is only
Yes.
going to be for the ones that are trying to skirt around.
Precisely.
And how many stores do you estimate right now we have in Upper Darby that are skirting?
Oh, I have no idea.
Does anybody, nobody knows?
It seems like, I'd say there's a lot of convenience stores in every little commercial section that seem to be displaying these smoke things pretty prominently. You agree? I mean, so yeah, it's
I don't
probably
really,
significant.
I don't
know
really,
what the number would be.
I don't really go into them. I just,
Yeah, I know we have 20, 25 smoke shops proper. I don't know how many of these convenience stores, right, there are.
and they're already in play. We can't do anything about them. This is just going forward.
Mm, Can't do anything about the existing smoke shops, right? These laws would apply, I think, to any convenience store that's operating now.
All right, but the stores that are,
Actually, smoke shops.
yeah, we can't do anything about. the
Right,
ones
they,
that
they
are
get to stay where they're at
They
and
are
they
what
can
they
sell
are.
their
smoke
business
shops,
to
but
another smoke
is-
shop.
operating as-
But this would apply to the fakers.
Yeah, the fake.
But
I believe so.
on, like they can correct, even if they're in operation right now, because they're not a smoke shop, they'll be limited, and you'll be able to enforce that with these
Yes.
stores. I don't go into a lot of stores, so I'm not a good person to ask. And you say now you think we should change it from, we said 500, then we said 1,000, now you're saying back to 500?
Right, so I sent you guys the map of, right, what would that look like? And would we physically or theoretically be limiting any potential for there to be a smoke shop, right? Therefore, making it really not, what would we call, was that taking? Making it a taking and which could trash the whole ordinance. And that was, right, if you have 1,000 feet or if you have 500 feet from any of the township rec zones or the township parks, right, there is no space for
When we
there
went
to
to
be a
1,000
smoke
feet,
shop.
We essentially had no place left for them, so we had to come back.
And it was like an unknown, and so one of the things that we asked Dusty to sort of spatially show us what that looks
Yeah.
like. It was like an unknown, and so one of the things that we asked Josh last time we talked about this, if he can spatially show us what the effect of that would be to determine if it would be more likely to be a taking or not, and so that was the doc, or the thing
I
that he
forgot about that
circulated.
part, okay, yeah, I still wish it was, but I get it, I'm okay with that, thank you.
Okay. If we need, I can pull up the map, but it should be in all of your emails from last time.
So maybe at January's meeting, you can, between now and January's meeting, you could have discussions in the department again
Yeah,
about the measuring, and maybe that'll,
Right,
we'll
now,
be able to actually
edit the
finish it up
new-
in January.
All right.
Okay.
and
All
I'll
right,
edit
so no
at that
official,
area.
Ask a
um,
question before you close that discussion out. I know in the document, you said that it's 500 feet away from a school, charter school, park. Is there any indication about church or synagogue, any kind of religious building? Does that come into play at all?
I
don't
don't have
remember.
anything on them.
No.
I don't think it was. Let me-
Mm-mm. There's a lot of churches.
Now, and they all have nursery schools, so they may like.
yeah, that kind of,
Fall under this school.
a lot of them have schools, that's true.
Okay.
It's complicated because there's a number of churches that are in commercial storefronts too, so that might be a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Some of the churches are actually smoke shops, so.
Okay, then, so we'll come back to that in January, and we might be able to finish it then. On old business, we talked last time about getting legal counsel input to our plan to try to amend the bylaws to include virtual participation and what would, as part of a quorum. And basically what came back from legal counsel is, no, that's not a good idea. That virtual participation is fine for virtual participation and for voting purposes, but that the quorum needs to be of people physically present. So I think if that's gonna, if we can't hold legal muster to do it the other way, then we can't do it. So we don't need to go ahead with amending anything really then, because we've already allowed virtual participation, but just not to have it count towards the quorum.
Right, and I'll continue to push towards, with the new administration, security, safety concerns that
Right.
I've been
Right.
raising. every
Yeah,
month.
so that's what we'll do. We'll, We have new administration coming in on January 2nd, and we'll bring up, as we discuss the different commissions and how they operate with the new administration, we'll bring this up again. Does anybody have any new business? Okay. Hearing none. Would you like to leave?
Yes, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Are we off the? Are we off the public? Yeah, are we off?